بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا وما بعد سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي أما بعد. So we are continuing where we started off last week. What we are discussing today is the final part of the first civil war that took place in Islamic history. Many of us know it as the Battle of Camels or Jang-e-Jamal. And one thing before I go forward I want to mention is that, as I said last week, many of the Shia people use this story to sort of prove that Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha had ill intentions, and her intention was to fight against Ali radiallahu ta'ala anha in this entire campaign. Although the reality is that when Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha would recall this moment, or when she will recall this incident later on in her life, she would cry so much that her scarf would become wet of tears. Because the intention of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha leaving from Mecca with Zubayr ibn Awam radiallahu ta'ala anha and Talha radiallahu ta'ala anha and many others was not the intention of going against Ali radiallahu ta'ala anha, but it was to find those people who were responsible for killing Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anha and taking revenge from them or holding them accountable. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, while she was in Mecca, as I said last week, that she was there because she had just performed her Hajj, as well as all the other Ummahatul Mu'mineen. They were all in Mecca and they had just finished their Hajj. And it said that at that time when Zubayr and Talha radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, they came to Mecca and they informed Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha that look, nothing has happened. 4 months have gone by. Ali radiallahu ta'ala anha has not got these people, or he has not held these people accountable. So now we have to take action into our own hand. It said that Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she was at a crossroads, I would say. She had no idea, should she go and should she take matters into her own hand or not. It said that there was a person by the name of Ya'la ibn Umayyah. He had left Yemen with the intention of going north and arriving at Medina. And when he arrives Medina, he wanted to go and visit Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. However, when he reached Mecca, then he found out that Uthman radiallahu anhu has been assassinated, and then he also told Aisha radiallahu anha that whatever you need, I have military supplies, I have traveling supplies, I have everything that you name it. You go and I will be with you, and everything that you need, I will be there with you. Now at this moment, initially Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha and some of the Sahaba, they thought that let's go back to Medina and let's hold these people accountable in Medina. 6,000 people were all together, the people who planned and plotted, there were 6,000 people who were part of this entire plan to kill Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anha. As we all know that the blood of Uthman was not on the hands of 6,000 people. Eventually when Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anha was assassinated, and he was assassinated, it said that approximately 1,000 people had left. Some people went back to Egypt, some people went to Sham, some people went to Kufa, some people went back to Basra. However, 5,000 people, of those people were still there. And there are some reports that some of those people that did exist were people who were even close to Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu was not aware of who those people were. I mean, think about it. Logically speaking, would anyone know who are 5,000 people who are against Uthman radiallahu ta'ala? So even though there were some people who came and they showed they were sympathizers towards the people who assassinated Uthman radiallahu ta'ala, but at the same time they were close to Ali radiallahu ta'ala, and Ali probably did not know about that. So first of all, the initial idea was that let's go back to Medina, because majority of these people, or the Khawarij, they are found in Medina. However, they thought that majority of them are from Basra. And because in Basra there are such a small number of these people right now in Basra, if we go to Basra, we have the support of some of the Sahaba who are there. We're able to take care of the matter and we're able to bring these people to justice. The intention of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala, as I said earlier, was never to fight Ali radiallahu ta'ala, and neither was it to cause bloodshed and to cause bloodshed. The idea was that naturally speaking and Islamically speaking, anyone who took a hand or anyone who had a hand in the assassination of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anh, they are to be brought to justice. And if these people are brought to justice, eventually people see that their lives will be taken if blood is on their hands. But then this sends a strong message, and eventually this does bring peace about in the lands. Aisha anha said, if we don't do this right now, if we don't go to Basra right now, or if we don't hold these people accountable, then anyone could come and anyone can go against the Khalifa, and anyone could go into the city and take the life of the Khalifa, and there will be no accountability. So this is why Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, it was not only her idea, it was the idea of some of the others, but she did pursue this matter, and once again, it was never to go against Ali radiallahu ta'ala anha. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لا خير في كثير من نجواهم إلا من أمر بصدقة أو معروف أو إصلاح بين الناس. There is no good in much of their private conversations, meaning that there is no good in private conversations except for if you are enjoining charity and you're enjoining what is right, or you're trying to reconcile between the people. If you are doing this, then you can talk to people individually. This is why the ulama have said that if you want to even do ghibah first of all is not allowed. But even if you want to talk to people about a certain individual, first of all, it has to be for one of these three categories. Number one is that it has to be for a good cause, or is to bring two people together, or is to enjoining good. When Aisha is sitting in Makkah and she is talking about going and holding these people accountable, then this means that she's doing this for the right cause. And while, as I said, there were some Shia people who say that Aisha has clearly violated clearly violated the rights of Islam, she has gone against the teaching of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Many ulama have stood up in defense of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. Shaykhul Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullahi alayhi, even he mentioned that in this situation, Aisha has not violated any rules of Islam. She has not violated any rules of Islam. In fact, how can you say something so negative about a woman about whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned or has revealed an entire passage of Surah An-Nur? I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has exonerated Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. He has talked about how innocent this woman is. So how can you conspire against a woman of this type? And not only that, but if you go and you read the books written by the Shia scholars, they have said so many despicable things, so many disrespectful things about Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. Now, at this moment, the question is that was Aisha forced to go, or was she pressured into going? And the answer is that she was neither. She was neither forced into going, neither was she pressured into going, but she realized that Ali probably has a lot on his plate, and at this moment, if we don't take this matter into our own hand, this matter will slip away and these people will not be brought to justice. The second question that's generally asked is that when Aisha was part of this gathering, so initially when they started off, the books of history mention that there were approximately 600 people that were with Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. How much? 600 people. By the time they reached Basra, there are some books of history mention that she had approximately 30,000 people on her side. You know how that happens? As I said last week, when Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she would travel, first of all, her camel was extremely well decorated, number one. Number two is she had a hawdaj, a box on her camel. So anyone who would see that camel, they knew right away that this is not an ordinary person. This is a very special person. And when they would come and they would inquire that why is the wife of the Prophet ﷺ in the desert? Why is she traveling from our land? When they were told that this is why she's traveling, these people would join in. So it said that by the time they reached Basra, there were approximately 30,000 in number. Now, the question is that we know about Aisha anha, she traveled all the way to Basra. But what about the other wives of the Prophet ﷺ? Where did they stand in all this? All the wives of the Prophet ﷺ were in an agreement that these people who took the life of Uthman need to be brought to justice. Initially, when the idea was, or when the plan was that we are going to go back to Medina, all the wives, or majority of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, they said that we are with you, O Aisha. However, when the plan changed from Medina to Basra, at that time, all the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, they said that for this, to undertake this journey is going to be difficult for us. Now you have to understand, Aisha was the youngest of all of them, right? Yes or no? Aisha was the youngest of all of them. She's still considered as a very young woman. She has a stamina to go through a desert. She has a stamina to make or to travel great lengths and great distances. Unlike the other wives of the Prophet ﷺ, they were quite elderly. I mean, majority of them, they were quite elderly, and so they did not have the stamina and the physical capacity to travel all the way to Basra. So that's why they had excused themselves from taking this journey. But if anyone says that none of the other wives of the Prophet ﷺ were on this journey, that means that they were against Aisha. That is not true. They were on the side of Aisha, but because there was a lot of, their health would take a great toll if they traveled. That's why they decided not to go with Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. But nonetheless, they did tell Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha that if there's anything that you need from us, you let us know. Now, while they were traveling, something occurred. The Prophet, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she passed by a place by the name of Hawab. It's called Hawab. Now the Prophet ﷺ, once when he was sitting with his wives, or he was sitting with Aisha anha and some of the other companions, he said that, what do you think about the dogs of Hawab when they bark? Meaning that when the dogs of Hawab bark, then this is not a good sign. This is not a good sign. It said that when Aisha anha was traveling with Zubayr and Talha, they passed by this area called Hawab. And there was a well over there, so they stopped to get water. But at that same moment, they realized that there were some dogs barking in that same location. Right away, Aisha, she recalled what the Prophet ﷺ has said about this. And she said, and to Zubayr and Talha, that, is this, do you remember the Prophet ﷺ, he says something of this type? And even she recalled. And then, but once again, it was not that the Prophet ﷺ, he said that, it was not because the Prophet ﷺ, he said it that there was something like the dogs were barking against her. Initially, Aisha anha, she did have a somewhat of an idea or a thought. That the idea did cross her mind that if the dogs are barking, should we actually just leave what we're doing right now and leave this campaign and forget about going to Basra? Should we go back to Medina? And it said that majority of the people said that no, this is not exactly what it is, and we're close by, and let's move forward. So at that time, Aisha radiallahu anha, it said that she did move forward along with these people. Now, while all this development is taking place, what's happening in Medina? In Medina, Ali radiallahu ta'ala, he finds out that Aisha ta'ala has left Mecca along with 600 men, and they're gaining manpower every single day. So he decides to end up going. Now, many of the Sahaba, they came to Ali radiallahu ta'ala and they said that, "Oh, Mu'mineen, this is not a good idea. If Aisha, if our mother Aisha wants to go to Basra, let her go to Basra. If she wants to go with some of the other Sahaba, let them go. But you should not go. You should not go. God forbid something happens. We lose another Khalifa. We just lost another Khalifa just a few months ago. We cannot be in the position of losing another Khalifa this quickly." So Ali ta'an, he heard the concern of many of the Sahaba ta'an, but he realized that if I don't go here in this situation, I cannot send someone out to go and deal with this matter in Basra. There's only myself, I have to go in this situation. So he said that Ali ta'an also started off, and he had approximately 700 men with him. And by the time he reached the outskirts of Basra, he came across many people, and because everyone knew who he was, they asked Ali ta'ala what is going on. He talked about it, and they all joined him. By the time he reached to Basra, the books of history mentioned that he had approximately 20,000 people. He had 20,000 people. Now think about this. In fact, it was 10,000. 10,000. So Aisha, she has a huge group. Ali radiallahu anhu has a huge group. Now, at this moment, there were many Sahaba, including Imran ibn Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anh, who tried to intervene, and he tried to call off this entire situation. He went to both parties. He went to the party of Aisha radiallahu anha. He went, and Aisha's party was already in Basra. Okay, they were already in Basra. Then he went outside of Basra. Ali radiallahu anhu was camped outside of Basra, nearly at a half a day length from Basra. So they would go back and forth, and the emissaries went back and forth. Eventually a person by the name of Qa'qa' came along, and he came to Ali radiallahu anhu and he said that, look, Ya Mu'mineen, this has to end right now. I mean, how is this happening right now in Islam? I mean, imagine the Prophet ﷺ was alive. What would he say about this? And so he went to Ali radiallahu anhu's camp, he went to Aisha radiallahu anha's camp, and he went back and forth, and this took place for 3 days. 3 days. Eventually, Ali radiallahu anh, he decided to call off this entire situation. And Aisha radiallahu anha and Talha radiallahu anh and Zubayr ibn Awam radiallahu anhu, they also decided to step down and not to pursue the matter, but there were 3 conditions that were made that they had to follow. They had to fulfill 3 conditions. Number 1 is that first of all, Ali radiallahu anh needs to identify all the people who were sympathizers with the people who assassinated Uthman radiallahu anh. And if they are even close to Ali radiallahu anh in Medina, they need to be expelled from Medina. Number 1. Number 2 is, we have to find exactly those people who are responsible for the assassination of Uthman, and they will be brought to justice. And when I say be brought to justice, they will be executed, because that is the rule. Another thing that they said was that another condition that they made was that. So there were 2 conditions. So one of them, that they will all be expelled. The second one, that they will be killed. Now, at this moment, Ali radiallahu anhu's camp went to sleep. In fact, it said that Ali radiallahu anhu came when he found out that everything is now calm. We can go, and I can go and talk to Talha. I can go and talk to Zubayr. It said that Ali radiallahu anhu also came into Basra. Now, in Basra, they both are there. The camps are side by side. Now, at this moment, it said that they both went to sleep at night thinking that nothing is going to happen. Alhamdulillah, we have come to a resolution, we have come to an understanding, and we have come to an agreement. But here's what happens. When we talk about the first civil war in Islam, it was not actually caused by the Muslims. In fact, these people, the Khawarij, and not only that, but the people who followed Abdullah bin Sabah. Abdullah bin Sabah, as I said last week, was one of the key leaders who instigated all these plans to assassinate Uthman radiallahu anh. When he saw, because at the end of the day, he's enjoying every single bit of this. Because you know what the idea is when it comes to politics? It's called divide and conquer. You divide people and then you conquer people. His idea was the same exact. Let's divide the Muslims and let's then conquer the Muslims. So when he sees all this division, he's happy about all this. However, what happens is that when the night comes and everything is back to normal and there is a good understanding between Ali's camp and Aisha anha's camp, he realizes that this is not what he intended. So what he did was that he gathered a few hundred people. And in the midst of the night, like right dead middle of the night, some of his people, they went behind the tent of Ali radiallahu anh, and some of the other people that he had gathered, they went from behind the tent of Aisha and Talha and Zubayr radiallahu anhuma, and what they did was that they launched an attack against each other. They launched an attack against each other. Now, when they launched an attack against each other, imagine, these people are getting up in the middle of the night and they're under attack. What's the first thing that is going to come to their mind? People in the camp of Aisha are thinking that Ali is attacking them. People in the camp of Ali are thinking that Aisha and Talha and Zubayr are attacking them. And this lasted for nearly 3/4 of a day. This entire battle lasted for 3/4 of a day. Now, there were many other people. There were majority non-Sahaba in this. But nonetheless, there were many people who lost their life in this. To the number that At-Tabari mentions, that there were approximately 10,000 people who lost their life in this battle. 10,000 people. And it said that when they realized exactly what has happened and how this was a conspiracy or a plan that has been put together and hatched by Abdullah bin Sabah. By that time, when Abdullah bin Sabah found out that they know now, and he could be caught, he fled the scene. But what he did was, he put the fire there. He lit the fire, and he caused a lot of damage. Now here's the biggest damage of all. In this battle, Talha and Zubayr ibn Awam both, they lost their life in this battle. They both lost their life in this battle. Both. And in Ali it was never his intent. I mean, every single time, Aisha, she recalls this battle and how she lost two people, because both these people were mahrams to Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. There were people who were extremely close to Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. And when she realized that she lost both of these people in this battle, which was really a misunderstanding. It was not really Muslims going against Muslims here, but it was people who were the fitna makers, that they had launched this attack against each other. 10,000 people lost their lives. It said that later on, when everything was brought at a standstill, they realized what had gone on. Those people were captured, they were executed. People who were with Abdullah bin Sabah, it said that Ali went to Aisha radiallahu anha, and he said it very clearly, because of course as I said, you could not see the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. It was not allowed for anyone, if you are a non-mahram, you cannot see the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. You have to talk to the wives of the Prophet from behind a curtain. So Ali was a mahram. He went into the hawdaj, or into the tent of Aisha anha, and of course she was really upset with all this. Ali was upset with all this, and Ali who said that may Allah forgive you, and that all this happened. And Aisha said it very clearly, that may Allah forgive you too. And clearly this was a misunderstanding on both of our parts. And Aisha says, she made it very clear to Ali that this was, wallahi, this was never my intent to go against you. All this that happened today was never my intent. These people who caused the assassination of Uthman, I wanted these people to be brought to justice. And today, whatever has gone on, it's really sad. In fact, Ali when all this was happening, when all this fighting was taking place, it said that some of the Sahaba came, and even his own son came. And Ali says that I wish I would have died 20 years ago. I wish I would have never seen this day. That for the first time during my khilafah, I'm seeing people fighting against each other, Muslims fighting against each other, and I wish I would have never seen this day. And not only that, very contrary to what the Shias believe. Shias believe that, of course, Aisha, she committed a crime against Ali but subhanAllah, even if you see after this, Ali not once but many times he would go, and he had not one time but many great things. Not one, but many great things to say about Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala, in fact, Ali anhu said, because there are many people who were doing chit-chatting in Medina, there are many people who were doing chit-chatting along the other Muslim camps, that Aisha did this and Aisha did that, and Ali anhu made it very clear that anyone who says anything against the wife, says anything against the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then they will be lashed 100 times. This is the level of respect that Ali anhu had for Aisha anha, and even Aisha anha, she even came from the public, from behind the hawdaj, and she said that Ali is a noble man, that Ali is a man of integrity, and she had many great things to say about Aisha anha. Now, of course, the people who were traveling with Aisha to Basra primarily were Talha and Zubayr. Now that they both have passed away, what happened was that Ali who he assigned 40 to 70 women from Basra, 40 women from Basra, that you are to go back to Medina, you are to travel to Medina with Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. And not only that, but there were some other maharams who were brought of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. And she was then taken back to Medina, and she stayed in Medina. And once again, when you study about Ali and Aisha anha, and even after that, even after they came back to Medina, they had such a high level of respect for one another. They loved one another. They never disrespected one another. And they realized that, and Aisha says that if I knew that all this would result in 10,000 people losing their lives, I would have never gone to Basra. There are some people who say that if I had to do it again, I would do it again, and I know the casualties, I know the consequences. There are people who say these kind of things, right? But Aisha, she says that if I knew in advance that this would happen, I would have never gone to Basra, because my intent of going to Basra was never this. So I pray to, this is something really, really important to understand. Now, the next battle, which we're going to be talking about next week, is one that is quite hard to digest. Literally, it is quite hard to digest, because this was the battle of Siffin. This is where you have Ali and Muawiyah not going head to head. And this, compared to this battle that took place, the Jang Jamal, or the Battle of Camels, this is still a little more easier to digest when you know that it was Abdullah bin Sabah behind this entire plan. But when you get to the next battle, the Battle of Siffin, it is slightly more difficult to digest. Inshallah, we'll talk about this next week. But it is, and you remember I shared this with you before when we talked about Uthman al-Ta'an, that the Prophet ﷺ, he predicted that when Uthman dies, the doors of fitna will open. And the reality is that the doors of fitna have been open since then till today. Honestly, the doors of fitna have been open. It is what it is. There were some good moments in the Battle of Siffin, between Ali and Muawiyah. But at the same time, that's still a little more difficult to digest, because we know the status of Muawiyah. And Muawiyah, he never had anything against Ali al-Ta'an. He never said once that Ali is not fit for Khilafah. What he actually said was that I disagree that Ali is taking care of other matters, whereas the first thing on his to-do list is to take retribution on behalf of Uthman al-Ta'an. That's all he said. And the reason Muawiyah said that is because he was related to Uthman al-Ta'an. He was related to Uthman al-Ta'an. So that's why he had that soft spot in his heart that this is what Ali should do. But that's not what Ali al-Ta'an did. But this next battle does take place. It's slightly difficult, as I said, but inshallah we'll talk about this next week. And once again, the idea has never been, and never, this is the last thing I'll share this with you. When I share these stories with you, the thing is that many of us, before these kind of stories, we've heard a lot of different things, when you, not once, but many times when I've sat down with people, they have talked about, oh, there was a battle where Ali and Aisha, they fought against each other. I've heard this before. And a lot of times when it comes to history, we need to have a clear picture of exactly what took place. And hopefully this provides a clear picture that these were, at the end of the day, Aisha is from the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen. Ali al-Ta'an is from the Khulafa Rashidun, and not only that, but he's from the Ashra al-Bashra. And we need to realize that we can never, even if when we talk about the Battle of Siffin, this does not mean that we can be judgmental towards anyone. Ali al-Ta'an, we will respect Ali al-Ta'an because he is the Prophet, he is a Sahabi of the Prophet ﷺ. We are going to respect Muawiyah because he is a Sahabi of Rasulullah ﷺ. We're going to respect Aisha, and none of us, if we do our ibadah, all of our life, we can never even come to the level of the lowest of the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. So none of us have the authority to even say something against any of the Sahaba. This was between them. And they realized that these were misunderstandings, and they were able to always keep their personal matters out of this. They never took it personal. When things would happen, they did it because they thought they were on the right. They thought they were on the right side. But things did happen, and so we need to realize that this does not give us the authority to even have any kind of judgmental feelings towards any of the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the understanding of these matters. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He keeps us away from conflict. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite our hearts. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanallah bihamdi. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.